Hi, MPA families. Hey, it's Mr. Brian. Um, Thank you for joining us live tonight. This is our first YouTube live broadcast of some kind of parent webinar, town hall, whatever you want to call it. But we're excited. It's our way of connecting right now. And so we thought, well, let's share a little bit of our story tonight, how we got to this place. And let's also share what some experts can help us with in the world of Montessori. And as you know, this all started very quickly. Let me kind of take us back to March. It seems forever ago, but the week of roughly March 9th, um, we all kind of knew something was coming. And I called a roundtable meeting. That is our term for leadership there at Montessori. It's one of the teams I put together since I've been there this year. And we met and we talked about how can we do Montessori in a remote situation because we saw it coming. The district didn't make an announcement till I want to say somewhere around March 12th. I did an all staff meeting on March 13th, a Friday. Basically, friends, we had 72 hours to kind of figure this out. And here's what it led us to. We are not one of those districts like DPS, Aurora, and a few others who had 3 weeks to watch and learn. We jumped over the weekend. And that's where the celebration really comes in. I have to say, our staff, not only did they jump that fast, but we came together. There's a real spirit that has driven us. Was it perfect? No. Um, do we need to figure things out? Yes, and that's why we're here tonight. Um, I think our vision says it the best for me. It says Montessori Peaks Academy is an educational journey, preparing each child to uniquely contribute to our shared community. And with that, I really sat down. I'm like, I'm not a Montessorian, but I am an educator who came from a Google Classroom environment. I've been a principal, everything, but the couple of years I went back and I taught with a Chromebook. So, which is pros and cons. And Montessori is a different way of thinking. It's a different way of doing things. That's why you're here. So, Beth and I worked on something called our 3 C's. And our 3 C's are the first one's connection. How do we build connection in this remote environment? We can do it in a whole group. We can do it in small groups. We can do it individually. We can do it over lunch. I join those in different classes where they're having snack time or lunch. Connection is huge. How do we do this? Because we're all disconnected, but we all are still part of MPA. So that's the 1 C that we talk about at every meeting that I hold. I do about 8 or 9 Zoom meetings on a Monday, and I talk to the individual groups in our school, and we plan and work. And our next C is creativity. This is an opportunity for us to be as creative as we can. And each week, we just want to get better. Like that first week of rollout, those 3.5 days that we did before spring break, that was our best creativity at the time. I thought we did fabulous for the quick 72-hour start. But now being week 6, we have different expectations. And so Seth, one of our experts on tonight, he'll talk a lot about that, how we can use this as an opportunity. Next, the last C is really capacity. And I thought this one really is the world we're in. Every family and every person has a different capacity right now. And that's really kind of a core element of Montessori is every child's on their unique plan. And so we need to have that same way of thinking in this remote environment. And so we really talk about some families have capacity for more. They want more. We see the emails, they want more. Other families are juggling a lot. Parents might be working during the day and only can do things at night, and maybe not every night. So their capacity is different. It's not a judgment, it's just reality. And even our staff has capacity. Some of us, our kids are grown and older and they're off doing their own remote work versus other MPA staff have children at home as well. Again, staff have their capacity. So we really keep those three C's at heart: connection, creativity, and capacity. And then that kind of drives us forward as we go. Um, One of the things that we wish we would have had was time to help you prepare and help prepare the home. But it was a quick start, as you know. The world changed very quickly, and all of us were in a state of overwhelmness. I think at least it took me at least a good 3 weeks to really understand that I don't leave home for work. And so we're all in this together. I like where we're going. We would love to be back at the school. Believe me, we didn't become educators to work from the home. And so I echo that of the staff. They've been champions. You've been champions. And now it's time to talk about where we're at, where we're going to go. And I'm going to turn it over. There's some great people behind the scenes here. I don't know if you know Beth Anderson, but she's used to be an MPA upper level teacher. She's retired. She came back out of retirement, and she's one of our instructional coaches. And her and I partner every day on everything. And she's my guide in all of this. And her and I have a way of helping each other and the staff, because right now I'm dealing with a lot of information coming out of the governor's office, out of Colorado Department of Education, out of our superintendent, out of all of our charter organizations. We have a pending budget crisis on hand. We don't know the state of affairs come August, to be honest. No one knows how to socially distance in a public school yet. So there's just an onslaught of information. Beth is a lot more in the teacher's world day by day, and that's by design. Each one of us carries a different load, and she can kind of tell you a little bit better where the mindset of teachers at and the things that they're grappling with every day to support this process that we've created. So let me introduce Beth Anderson.
Hi. Thanks, Brian. Glad you're all here tonight. So I can explain to you a little bit about my job is, and it has been all year, is to check in with the teachers, see what they're thinking, what they're doing. And it's the same in remote. So kind of cool thing in remote is that I get to see on Google Classroom all kinds of assignments that are on there, all kinds of pictures of kids' work on there, and I could tell you it just blows me away at the amount of creativity and Montessori thoughtfulness that our teachers are putting into all their assignments. And the work is pouring out in precious things like sitting inside of a snowy hoop garden, all the way to designing like forts inside the house. There's money lessons going on. There's a teacher who's teaching test tubes, and some of you may know all these people I'm mentioning, but there is like a treasure trove of amazing work. I wish you could see it. I'm just so amazed, and I just want you to know that there are wonderful, wonderful, creative, thoughtful people who are supporting your children. Um, so I was going to also explain to you that go back with what Brian was saying and talk a little bit about our preparation and where we are now. So I think it kind of breaks down into three stages maybe for us. When we began, we were having a super high, steep curve of learning in technology. Things weren't working, or we didn't know how to do them. We've never even tried them. We had to take videos and study them. And then things would crash on us. I still get crashed on Zoom sometimes. So it was a high, steep curve that maybe lasted about 2 weeks. And then we started getting comfy and reflecting on what we were doing, and what was working and what was not. And then finally, we came to, oh, we've come to now, and we're trying to think, uh, what are we doing here? And how is our Montessori? And so I think what has happened is we just in the last week or two have been reflecting on that and deepening our practice, and with Seth's inspiration and um, The National Center that Seth is from has shared many, many resources which have been shared to you and throughout the staff, which have enriched us and given us a picture of what's going on in the Montessori world all over the country and even in Canada. So I think we're all working very hard, and I think we're at a point of deeper, thoughtful teaching going on. I think your teachers have adjusted, they've modified, they've talked individually with many, many of you, and that's kind of where we're going. So I think it might be the same pattern for you a little bit. First, it's like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? Um, and then moving into, oh, okay, we get it. We'll get up every morning and start doing our learning. And then finally, it's like, well, if we have to keep going, do we need to keep thinking deeper about this? Because how are we going to stay Montessorians in this world? And we're finding ways. Your teachers and staff are just amazing, and they are finding ways. And Seth is going to guide us in some more thinking on that. So just want you to know, I think the teachers have got this, and if we have to, we'll continue getting it. So glad you're here tonight.
Thanks, Beth. Tonight, the title of our webinar is Montessori at Home, Practical Ideas for Parents and Guardians During COVID-19. And we work with the National Center of Montessori in the Public Sector. They're a group that we've done our professional development with this year. And I also ruffled some feathers, but it was good. We had them come in and do an audit of the school. They observed and they gave us critical feedback. And that's how you improve. That's one thing I know from being a leader for a long time is what is the real information that will help us improve as a building. And Seth's been part of that. And you'll find out tonight he's well versed. We learn a ton from him. And without further ado, here's Seth Webb.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Good evening and welcome, everyone. It is really such a pleasure to have the opportunity tonight to visit with members of the Montessori Peaks Academy community. Just a huge thanks to Brian, Beth, and the MPA Board of Directors for hosting this town hall and information session. My name is Seth Webb, and I'm a program manager and coach with the National Center for Montessori in the Public Sector. We are an independent nonprofit that works with public Montessori schools across the country to refine and further develop their practices so to best serve their unique school communities. And under more usual circumstances, most of my time is spent in public Montessori schools in Colorado and around the Rocky Mountain region, providing ongoing professional development, training, and program support. I am a former public Montessori school teacher and administrator, and I'm also the parent of 2 public Montessori teenage children. So I come to our conversation tonight both as a past school-based practitioner, as well as a collaborator and co-learner. We are all navigating this new normal together. As Brian mentioned, this school year I've had the great pleasure to have partnered with MPA as it boldly moves into its 2nd decade of service to families in Jeffco. And our work has included the completion of a detailed school review, design and implementation conversations with staff, and ongoing collaboration with school leadership around best Montessori practices within the public education landscape. Again, a huge kudos to the school staff and administration for doing the critical work necessary to create and sustain such a rich Montessori environment for all the school's children. My intention this evening is to share some of the scientific insights that serve as the foundation of our Montessori practices, and to explore how knowing them might inform how parents and guardians can partner with the school in support of the children in their collective care. My hope is that you leave knowing more than you did when you joined us, with additional ways of thinking and strategies and resources for you to employ at home. And as we begin, I just want to acknowledge your choice to attend this session this evening. This is a dynamic time, and you each have a lot that you are newly responsible for. In broad brushstrokes, supporting children during the school day, while many of you are working from home or juggling new schedules. I just want to thank you for making the time to attend this event and for your eagerness to explore this new reality together. And that's also to say that that's perhaps what's on the surface. We are all each also wrestling in our own ways with what kind of lies beneath the outward preoccupations of our days. I'm sure that many of us are wondering, are we going to get sick? How do I care for a loved one that lives far away? Am I going to lose my job? Or for some of us in the school community, what am I going to do for work? How am I going to make ends meet? And with in-person schooling canceled for the remainder of the school year, how in the world can we do Montessori in cyberspace? Ultimately, are our kids going to be okay? Well, through our conversations, Brian, Beth, and I realize many of the challenges that you're experiencing and desire this evening to provide a safe space in which we can take a collective breath, share some ideas and resources, and then return to our families and school community all the stronger for it. So I think what I'll do now is I'm going to bring up a slide deck. So just give me a moment here. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Okay. So Dr. Montessori wrote, "It is necessary that the human personality should be prepared for the unforeseen, adapting itself quickly and easily. Adaptability, this is the most essential quality." And here we are. In fact, this sentiment is also echoed in MPA's guiding principles. Honor the individual child, champion a culture of excellence, prepare lifelong learners, create responsible world citizens, and yes, adapt the Montessori method to this time and place. Never before in our lifetimes, perhaps, has this last principle been so relevant. In the recent weeks, schools and families across the country have felt challenged by how to replicate the richness and rigor of their children's school day experience while at home. I think we all can recognize that has been an intense period of adaptation. And during this time, it's important to acknowledge that one of the myths of Montessori education is that it's all about the materials, the beautiful equipment that is so unique to our classrooms. And to be sure, the Montessori materials are indeed incredibly powerful. But like Brian alluded to a few moments ago, Montessori is more than that, of course. Beyond the focus on academic skill development alone, Montessori is a mindset and a way of being in the world that can flourish nearly anywhere, regardless of the specific things you have at your disposal. So, in this time of distance teaching and learning at home, there are two central questions that I'd like us to address. What do we know about how children learn and grow, and the outcomes that matter most of all, that we might keep in mind as we design and prepare the home learning environment? And secondly, what are some of the critical skills linked to those outcomes of lifelong success and happiness, and how can we foster their development at home? So, this is what research into human development and the experience of teachers working with children show us. First, that human development is an integrated process. We are constantly absorbing and processing information from our environments, and the physical, intellectual, social, and emotional growth that we go through are linked and are often dependent on one another. Secondly, human development is gradual and continuous and cumulative, meaning that our growing bodies and minds follow general patterns of biological, neurological development that build upon each other and are somewhat predictable. Third, human development is an active process. The majority of this occurs organically through self-directed interactions with people and objects and concepts, and the experiences that we have and the process of reflection we go through afterwards builds our understanding of the universe and our place in it. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly for our conversation tonight, as regards how we share in the preparation of the learning environment, the quality of the environment within which learners interact can either foster or impede healthy development. Environments that serve children the best are orderly and predictable, fairly peaceful, allow for some level of guided choice, free movement, social activity, and extended opportunities for trial and error, making mistakes, and lots of them. So we know how we grow and learn. What else do we know about what we all need as we develop? Well, as parents and guardians, these are all things that you are naturally aware of and maybe practicing effortlessly. And I offer them here as helpful reminders. For when we are all at home together and at the same time, it may be that our usual rhythms need additional reflection and retooling so to best support everyone's needs. So, physical and emotional well being. Are you and your children eating a balanced diet and drinking enough water? And if food scarcity is a present issue, are you aware of the community resources available to you and your family? And given the increased stressors of our present time, in what ways are you able to take care of yourself such that you are able to take care of others? Safety and security. Is everyone in your household developing a regular routine that is manageable? As much as is tolerable, this includes time set aside for meals and play and rest and personal space for both the adults and the children, physical movement, quality time together, and a reasonable bedtime. What's your family's plan for communicating expectations and working agreements for conflict resolution? And lastly, are you aware of what activates you, what causes you stress? And at this time, do you have a partner or family member or older child living with you with whom you can tap out when necessary? And if not in your immediate household, is there a member of your family or community of friends with which you can call or maybe video chat to connect and process and release some of that stress? What about belonging and connection? In what ways are you building in time each day to be truly present for your children or your partner? It may be tempting to use the time your children are working or playing independently to check your email or do the laundry or wash the dishes, all things that are critically important, right, in the maintenance of the household. Um, as is manageable, try being truly present for and to your children for 15 minutes. It's amazing how genuinely satisfying that level of engagement can be for your child and how stabilizing it is to their development of independence. And lastly, purpose and accomplishment. Your children, like you, are processing this fog of uncertainty brought about by the current health crisis and its repercussions in ways that are often masked and unseen. And like you, they desire activity to feel some level of normalcy. So, in what ways could you engage them through purposeful work that allows them to recognize that they and their contributions matter to you and your family? So far, we've explored how we learn and grow, and what we all need throughout our lifetimes. Now, what are the outcomes that matter most for children? Well, research has shown us that much of the success of a high quality Montessori program is rooted in the opportunities that foster the fulfillment of wide scope developmental outcomes linked to human flourishing, such as executive functions, linguistic and cultural fluency, and social fluency and emotional flexibility. So, what are those three things? So, let's take executive functions. Executive functions can be broken down to a triad of initiation and concentration, working memory, and inhibitory control. And taken together, these are the capacities of being able to begin self chosen, purposeful work independently, hold multiple and at times competing ideas in one's mind, and moderate one's impulse drive. What about linguistic and cultural fluency? Research suggests that meaningful communication is emotional as well as intellectual. It's initiated by the desire for a connection. So, linguistic and cultural fluency refers to one's sensitivity and responsiveness to others in conversation and communication. And lastly, social fluency and emotional flexibility. And this is that suite of schools that refers to the ability to recognize social cues, maintain emotional regulation, believe in oneself, and possess resilience in moments of challenge and change. Now, what do we do with all this information? If we know how children naturally develop and we know what the outcomes are that matter most, what are the practical ways in which we may all foster a Montessori mindset at home? And how might we prepare the virtual environments that we share and the physical environments in our home so to develop the critical skills linked to long-term and lifelong success and happiness? Dr. Montessori wrote, "The whole concept of education changes. It becomes a matter of giving help to the child's life. No longer is it just an enforced task of retaining our words and ideas. This is a new path on which education has been put to help the mind in its process of development, to aid its energies, and strengthen its many powers." But beyond the content mastery of core academic concepts, it is the development of specific critical skills that matter most. Skills such as focus, independence, engagement, challenge, curiosity, and innovation, and those that are more outward facing, perspective taking, making connections, collaboration, conversation, flexible thinking, and use of evidence. Here's a fun fact. Our homes are places of learning. If not in practice already, what are some examples of how we might create the opportunities for these skills to be developed in the home? Let's take each one at a time, and I'll ask some questions that hopefully will prompt some thinking about what's currently in play or what subtle changes might be made such that these skills could be developed in the home environment. So let's look at those more inward facing skills, those skills that a child can do most often on their own. What about focus? As a parent or guardian, how might I create an environment with fewer distractions and less stimulation, such that my child might bring all of her attention to bear on an activity of interest? Independence. What can I let go of materially so that my child can engage with meaningful work? What can I let go of emotionally so that my child can engage with meaningful work? Oftentimes, have you found as a parent that sometimes we're the ones that are in the way of deeper learning? What about engagement in the home? What is it that my child is drawn to do to the exclusion of all else? And what is it about that activity that is so captivating? And how might knowing that inform me to support her with that interest? Challenge. What can my child do right now? And what is just outside of her abilities? This is what we call the zone of proximal development, that sweet spot where learning occurs. If I know that and that space in between, how might I support her growth here? What about curiosity? How might I model my own comfort with the unknown so to foster curiosity in my child? What are those questions that might foster an eagerness to learn and ask more questions? For preschool and kindergarten students, it might be, for example, can you see whatever that thing is out there? Can you smell? I wonder what would happen if we XYZ. For elementary age children, it might be, for example, asking questions like, how do you think that got that way? Or why do you think they made it that way? Or what would you do if you were in a similar situation? And for adolescent students, it might be, for example, questions like, what problems were they trying to solve when they did this or that? And if you had to decide between this or that, what would you do and why? And how might you approach the same situation? And lastly, around the critical skill of innovation, in what ways might I turn my child's bedroom or other area of our home over to her to do with and as she might like? And how might I leverage my child's curiosity and eagerness to help to address a vexing problem in your home? So you might be able to tell that through my questioning, it is our approach and involvement as parents and guardians in the home that truly roots the development of these critical skills. And I hope also that you can see that it's not impossible. If not already in play, these are subtle changes that we all can make to support our children's optimal development. Let's go through those more outward facing critical skills, those skills that may take the involvement of a sibling or a parent or guardian or other members of the immediate community. What about perspective taking, involvement as parents when navigating the sometimes competing desires of all the members of our family? How might I, as parent and guardian, set the stage for my children to hear the needs behind others' feelings? Making connections. How might I overtly connect my child's understanding of her personal experience to an understanding of her connection to society, the nation, the world, the universe? For example, while eating lunch, you could ask where the bread in the sandwich came from, and then where that came from. And you can see where that line of inquiry might go. It could be fascinating. What about collaboration? In what ways might I authentically ask my child for help in ways that are developmentally appropriate, of course, but such that my child sees herself as making a real difference in the life of the family? Conversation. When is my child most apt to talk with me through a volley of real conversation? Is it while she's at play or while we're doing side by side work, at mealtime, etc.? How can I maximize those opportunities? Flexible thinking. How might I model changing my perspective and or attachments so to free up my child to do the same? And lastly, use of evidence. We all have needs and wants and perspectives that we are attached to. In what way can I model explaining why I might feel one way or another so that others might truly hear me? We started our conversation this evening with a review of how we learn and grow and what we need. Each of these concepts written into our own very DNA as humans on the planet. What we also know is the quality of the child's learning environment matters. The more intentional we can be with how it is prepared and what we do in it, the more optimal the learning will be for our children. So that's the nugget of what I wanted to share this evening. Thank you again for the opportunity to visit with you all. Please stay connected to what we're doing at the National Center for Montessori in the Public Sector. You can check out our webpage for links to the research that was mentioned a few moments ago, as well as resources for families during this very unusual time. Also, be sure to look up Montessori Public, our quarterly print publication that has an online presence that provides information and insight for the public Montessori community. I'm going to stop sharing and unmute my video and pass it back to Brian and Beth to see if there are any questions or comments coming in via the chat. I wonder, as you listen this evening, what's coming up for you? What reflections do you have? Questions, ideas? What's working? Or perhaps where are you feeling stuck? Do we have any other questions in?
Nothing at this point, Seth.
Okay.
Why those might come in, I thought
Yeah.
maybe we would just have a conversation around one of the things about this time is where teachers are kind of guessing what's going on at home, and everybody's trying to figure stuff out. But I tell you what, the reason I came to MPA is what inspired me to jump from expeditionary learning over to Montessori is, hey, you and I call it the secret sauce, but really for me, it comes down to just the independence that I saw, even during the school year. The, these students are taught to work as independent as possible, depending on their age, which also fosters interdependence. So we have those two beautiful elements always working. But then you also mentioned engagement. Wow, that led me to MPA. It was just the level of engagement that I was not seeing in other schools. And then curiosity. You throw that in. I think I was a Montessori student at heart, because I think my elementary teachers would be like, what? Brian's doing anything in education, let alone running a school? That's because I'm a tenacious learner, and just sitting and waiting for content to come at me was not my gig. And it took me all the way up till middle school, high school to really fall in love with learning. But I see that love for learning in our students. And here's the other thing too, is they're developing this flexible thinking, which in a time of crisis that we're in right now, wow, the rest of the world calls it growth mindset. And there's tons of books on it, and every business is looking at it, every school is looking at it. It's been a core piece of Montessori since the beginning. And that's the stuff that I'm seeing snippets of. Teachers are sending me this, parents send me pictures of their kids reading and writing and experimenting with things outside and listening to the books that I read. And just, you know, I think we're in a little different realm than other schools. Let's maybe
Yeah.
kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. One of the things that has impressed me pre-corona and during this time is the eagerness to learn that your staff exhibits, right?
Mhm.
And as we've spoken of recently, these moments of stress and turmoil test the systems and structures and habits of mind that we have in play, right? And what I am so thankful for and appreciative of is as we work collaboratively, me, you, and Beth, and your instructional staff, they are so thirsty to continue to lean into what is best for kids in this time. They're not sitting back on their laurels or letting things kind of slide by. They're really passionate about learning alongside their students, right? Which is exactly the kind of modeling that I was just talking about us doing as parents and guardians at home. They are living and breathing exactly what we're talking about. So I'm thankful and very impressed that that is the culture that you have at the school.
Well, that right there, that modeling that you're talking about, I think a lot of the things that you helped us with as a staff, uh, how our leadership team, our roundtable, pushed out information in this caring but yet urgent way,
Oh,
really led us to be that flexible right now. I think if we would have been caught off guard as a staff without these prior challenges, it would have been much harder. And so adults lead the way. That's
yeah,
the important thing, is it's hard for children to be more confident than the adults in their world. And the teachers help with that, by the parents are definitely providing that. And hey, it's a scary time, and we have a bunch of behind the scenes staff that's also working with children on the side who need that one-on-one. So that's the whole point, is it's okay to make mistakes in this environment as long as we understand that we can get better. But we're modeling that all the way. And I think the message I've been telling the parents I've been talking to is your kids are going to be okay. And the reason why is they're put into a network of adults that are showing it that we're okay. It's still scary. I'm not minimizing it. It's just, wow, what a privilege to be with this group of people at this time.
yeah. Another thing that has really impressed me is the willingness for the staff at MPA to be vulnerable and humble and admit that they don't have all the answers, right? And that's part of how we navigate this new space, is that we acknowledge what the realities are, but work collaboratively within the classroom community and outside of the classroom community, involving the families to navigate the space together. And again, it's that sense of authenticity and integrity that's being modeled for the children that I think is going to pay off in spades down the line.
Yeah, I at this time I reflect back to, um, I had the privilege of spending time with my grandparents who had farms in the Midwest, central South Dakota, and they had lived through the times of, you know, um, World War I, World War II, the Spanish influenza,
Yeah,
the Great Depression. I mean, uh, they, again, these four things I talked about, they just exhibited because of the challenging nature that they went through. It paid dividends later. They weren't a fearful group of people by any means, let me tell you. And how do you get strength? Is you practice it. It's not
yeah,
inherent. Um,
right.
so the challenges that are around us provide us opportunities, the incredible strength. I can only imagine some of our students as adults through this experience, the things they're going to be able to contribute and share with the world.
Mhm.
And I think that's exciting.
Yeah. One of the questions that's coming in is during this time, how is it that parents and guardians can help support teachers as they navigate this unusual space? Do you guys want to field that?
Here's what I know. We've been the cheerleader for parents, and they've been the cheerleader back for us. I think just checking in once in a while, how you doing? I had several of those today. Parents just saying, "Hey, I just want to reach out. How we doing?" And that is just nice in itself. The other thing too is if you really need a conversation with a teacher, use those 3 C's that I talked about. Hey, I feel like I'm maybe a little disconnected. Can we have a conversation? So it's again that connection. Hey, let's talk about some other things creativity wise that I can do. And then, hey, our capacity is only this at home. Is there any way to adjust that? So I think that's a great conversation starters right there.
Nice. I remember another thing that the staff was talking about this week when we visited was um, remembering or encouraging parents and guardians to remember that there are many and varied ways to connect with the classroom community via Zoom or a virtual space. And sometimes those rooms are full and sometimes not so much. So definitely have those students join in and stay connected.
Right. You bet. You bet. Is
Can I
there?
can I just answer a little bit
Oh, go ahead.
more on
Yeah.
Lisa's question? Um, I think as teachers, we, especially Montessori teachers, because we have them for 3 years, we know that there are lags in learning, there are stumbles along the way. But then we see at the end of 3 years, even though we worried like at the first, the youngest level that we have, they come around because we just trust they are going to get the skills and that we're ready and watching for them. So I think that's a little drop of encouragement that we see in a 3-year cycle. It's like you can have a whole year that's blank. It's just because you're emotionally your child is in a tough spot, and then they come right back because things get better and children are resilient, and they learn quickly, and we can do that. So I don't think we need to worry about that. And on the other hand, I think we are enriching our Montessori practical life by doing all these wonderful things that teachers are encouraging us to do, and that's powerful learning in itself.
Mhm.
So that's my one comment on that. And the other thing is, how do we encourage parents who are burned out from this process? Um, like you were saying, Seth, teachers want to hear this. They want you to share that. They want to support. So we're here to help. We're here to adjust and modify, give you a day off if you need it.
Mhm.
So we are here and we really care about if parents are burned out, and we want to know what to do to help. So reach out and have a Zoom conference. And many teachers, I was trying to calculate, I think in a week we probably have about 80 Zoom conferences, not counting the spontaneous ones that also develop. So this is a hidden lining, I think, in all of this, is that this is a special opportunity to know your child a little bit deeper, and your teacher, and have a new kind of connection with them just by sharing all these tough things that are good. We all know here how hard it is to teach, so we just want to hear and help you, and many teachers tell me that. So
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's the heart of it. Just having the conversation is the help itself, and then you'll get some clarity, and then you get that energy to get through this. Um, there's another question here: is there a way to connect over the summer? Yes, and then that's why we're experimenting with this town hall tonight. Is just to keep safe from each other. We will probably hold different informational meetings going forward because I don't have a lot of answers on what August looks like. Where we're just kind of in this moment and living each day one at a time. And more information will come out. I watch the data. I pay attention. I have some connections at different teachers in different parts of the world. business leaders who work in different parts of the world. So I get information from other sources than national media that will help. We all combine this information as a staff to make our best decisions. And being a charter gives us a little bit of flexibility, not much. We still have to work within all the guidelines of Jeffco and the governor and Jefferson County. But we're going to make it. It'll, like I said, we're going to have to rely on creativity for a while, and also be safe while we do it. As far as summer activities and camps, I think all this stuff's on hold right now. As you know, we're still supposed to stay at home in Jefferson County until May 8th. And the world's going to let us know how fast or slow life returns. Because I think for the first time, we understand being it all together is all together. I do want to say a couple other things about end of the year here and give maybe a few moments for other questions that might come in. If you have medications that your student had left at the school, because remember we shut that place down pretty fast on that Friday, Christine will be reaching out, setting up some times probably on May 15th. We'll be passing those back out. Again, we'll be as flexible as we can. Watch for that communication. Another thing too is we've passed out about 70 Chromebooks, which is about not quite half of the tech that we have at the school, but we'll have to have a way to retrieve those. Same with library books, plus all the stuff that students had left behind. Not everything got sent home on that Friday. So we're going to create a process that allows us to pass those materials as safe as we can between us, and also have a way to, hey, there's my teacher, and have a way to celebrate that from a distance. It's not selfie time, but it is time to reconnect that way instead of virtually, and kind of close out the school year. So we're working on that. Again, we have to wait for all this other information to come to us. And sixth grade graduation, that's a tough one. All graduations are a tough one. This is unprecedented that we haven't seen, at least in my lifetime. And we're planning a virtual kind of graduation. I think most of you have seen Mr. Tyler's stuff that he rolls out, and it's good to have a staff member with those skills. He'll definitely help us create something memorable. And then as for missing camp, things like that, we're also planning, if we're able to, some different summer possibilities connect with that sixth grade group as well. And so it's not one and done when May 21st rolls out. I just want to offer as many things that we can, just in case an in-person meeting doesn't happen over the summer. The data and our governor's going to let us know our state of affairs. So I know there's a lot of graduations pending for August, but we want to do something here in May as well. So, but it'll be virtually. With that in mind, I'm collecting lots of ideas. People send me stuff all the time. The upper teams being very creative. We're working on it. We're waiting for just how May's going to roll out, and we can't make promises that we don't want to deliver on. So thanks for being patient.
There's also moving up too, between the levels. So
Right.
their third grade teachers have met. Some of them have already met and brainstormed, and they're coming up with some good ideas. It'll be online, but it'll be special for them to send off, and the same at kindergarten level. So they're
Right.
all working on that.
I've had a few parents ask about placements. Our kinders move up into first, so that's one group moving, and then our thirds go to fourth. And really the best way to handle that, I do get some parent emails, things like that. Oh, I think my kiddo would do good here. The teacher's the expert. So parents and teachers, please connect, talk about that. That helps guide how we shape classrooms. Obviously, we try to balance things out as best we can, so that we don't put too many academic plans in one class versus another. Teachers also know student dynamics, kids that shouldn't be together, kids that work together well, things like that. They're really the experts. We collect all that, we work together, and then Miss Veronica and I obviously balance those rosters all summer as some families move away, new ones are accepted in. So it's never a static situation. Those class lists are always changing. But if you want to have that conversation with your parent or with your teacher, please do, parents. And some of you might have to finish up your parent-teacher conferences as well. And it might be super brief, just because when we're in this environment of constant communication right now, maybe things are good, or maybe there's some other things to talk about in the next 3 weeks.
Nice. Brian, I'll share with you and Beth a copy of the slide deck that I shared,
Okay.
as well
Great.
as those guiding questions. So if those are resources that families might benefit from, feel free to distribute as you will.
Okay.
And the other thing that I was going to say is that one of the themes that came out in our conversations with staff is just a real eagerness to help support and to partner. And one of the messages that came up was parents don't need to feel like they have to figure it all out on their own, that they can reach out and connect with their child's teacher to get support in navigating this new reality. So just another plug for that, and also just a thank you for inviting me to this conversation. And I am always encouraged by what I learned from both you and Beth and the staff at Peaks. There's really incredible work going on.
Well, we're grateful
Yes.
that you're here. Really, really special and valuable. You've helped us dig in and be better Montessorians. So we appreciate that.
It takes a village, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Seth.
Yeah.
It's been an incredible year, and we're still going. And I look forward to us working together next year. I want to give some shout outs here as we come to a close. We have Brandon Smith working the tech behind the scenes here. He's an MPA parent as well as an MPA board member. So thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
He will also be behind the scenes and helping out at next week's town or community meeting. I'm sorry, with the board. The board and myself will talk about all those business functions and some other parent questions. That's next Tuesday night, 6:30, I think. So the 5th. The other thing too is I have to say our assistants, we have a lot of them at MPA. We've really had to redefine their job description in this remote world. They're trained to work with students in person, and I'm just thankful that they're willing to jump in and learn things as we go. Thank you to all the leads. They've been tremendous in this flexible thinking concept in Montessori. That is just driving us right now. This level of creativity, trying new things, and we just the tenaciousness. I appreciate all they do. And for our maintenance crew, they're holding the fort down. They're keeping the building going and doing some things to improve the building while we're all away. And then the front office, they've just rocked it. And we're all redefining our job descriptions, and parents, again, we accept the feedback. If something's not working, you have to let us know, and we appreciate that. And so thank you. And I appreciate the flexibility of MPA's board of directors as well. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of, at this time, legal issues that pop up. Can we do this? Can we not do that? What do we know? And so I just appreciate the board and then Brittany's leadership as well. Her and I work very closely together to navigate these new and interesting waters we're in. So thanks to everybody. Parents, thank you for being our cheerleaders. We're your cheerleaders. Students, thank you. Stay strong. And I'll send out information about this night, where to see it, how to maybe rewatch it or pass it on to friends. That'll be out in Thursday's newsletter. So thank you, everyone. Thanks, Seth. Thanks, Beth.
Thank you. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.